Hello, I'm Matt Hawks, Assistant Professor of Mathematics at the United States Naval Academy, here with a poster about a particular classroom technique, the daily question, engaging students in your course. We will go through the mechanics of this technique and the benefits of using it. This all started when I recognized a need to better connect to my students. The method came from a Faculty Commons email about asking questions to encourage risky writing. I decided I could use the same technique in a mathematics course. I have spoken on this topic several times and have continued to refine my methods. As background, I have used this technique in the environment where I'm at. The Naval Academy has undergraduate students only and focuses on leadership development. We have small sections, no teaching assistants, and the students come under enormous time pressure. Bottom line, your setting is different, but this technique is transferable. So what is the daily question? I essentially conduct an oral census of the class. For larger sections, a sampling technique would achieve the same effect. I always answer the questions as well, and the process typically takes less than 5 minutes. Some more framework follows, then I will introduce you to some types of questions. So some ground rules. The students can always pass. There is no sharing of what was said with anyone outside of class. The instructor answers too, and we treat each other with mutual respect. Some boilerplate classroom policies are listed. The bottom line is that perhaps more so than before, you will need to be upfront about your policies and be ready to enforce and reiterate them for your students. Now, to the actual questions. Some questions lead into that day's lecture topic. For example, I can illustrate the fundamental counting principle by asking them about their favorite home-cooked meal. I have prepared the board, or a shared worksheet, with 3 columns, one for entree, one for side dish, and one for dessert. After they fill in the columns, I tell them that now they just walked into an eclectic restaurant, and here is the menu. You're allowed to order 1 entree with 1 side and 1 dessert. How many different meals are possible? Well, what if you were allowed to pick 2 sides? Some questions are completely unrelated to the course material. I ask them, what is the story behind your name? And I'm very tangibly reminded of the varied backgrounds of my students, ethnically, socially, etc. The procrastination question, what is your favorite way to procrastinate, is revealing in the sense that most people either use technology to procrastinate, like video games, surfing, or YouTube, or use people, like go around and strike up random conversations with whoever they find. Here are some further examples of questions. I particularly enjoy the freedom allowed in the last question on this slide. What is something you believe that most people might not believe? Because in stating your belief, at the same time you are acknowledging it is probably a minority opinion. This frees the students to say some fairly wacky things regarding aliens, conspiracy theories, Bigfoot, or the Cleveland Browns football team. So all this is fun, but does it do anything? In self-reported data, it helps the students' learning. Across 15 sections, I have had unanimously positive mentions of the daily question in end-of-course evaluations. I believe students like to share about themselves in a safe environment and to learn about their classmates. It is also a reminder to me not to focus on only the very good or very poor students. It provides a structure for me to share of myself with them. And in my mind, it opens the aperture to learning. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Before you dive in, realize these 5 caveats. You will have to champion civility in a way you may not be used to. Set and enforce class policies to enable risky sharing. And do not multitask. Model good listening. And it's okay to cut short or otherwise limit responses. Some questions elicit stories rather than a few words of response. Finally, be honest in your own responses. Inauthenticity will not result in a good environment. Now you are ready. It's time to take the plunge and transform your classroom into a community. Here are some references that I used. And finally, thank you for your time, and please leave a question or comment on the appropriate page.